Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp's mindset revealed in midst of new battle with Pep Guardiola and Bayern Munich. Jurgen Klopp has been here before, locked in a battle for silverware with Pep Guardiola, and with Bayern Munich. Klopp's Liverpool will move back above Guardiola's Manchester City at the top of the Premier League table on Saturday if they win or draw at home to Bournemouth. The Reds will then have 10 days away from the rigours of a fierce title battle to prepare for the huge Champions League first leg showdown with Munich. Bayern, of course, is the club that Klopp overthrown in Germany when he was in charge of Borussia Dortmund. Munich struck back, beating Dortmund in the 2013 Champions League before Guardiola arrived at the Allianz Arena to strengthen their domestic dominance. But the former Barcelona manager is not having it all his own way in England this season, and while Liverpool have dropped points in recent weeks, with a nervy draw at home to Leicester City followed by another at West Ham United, destiny remains in their own hands. And esteemed German journalist Raphael Honigstein has given an insight into how Klopp will be coping as the championship race hots up. "I think he's coping pretty well," said Honigstein on the Transfer Window podcast, which you can listen to in full by clicking here. "I would say it's even slightly surprising that he is this close to City. I didn't expect Liverpool to be able to challenge to that extent. I thought they'd be competitive, but I didn't expect them to lead the table with half the season gone, or just a little bit more than that. I think he's doing fine. I think you have to differentiate between the wider expectations of this Liverpool team, who have almost raised the bar and put pressure on themselves to win it, and the real fan base, who seem just to enjoy themselves, and I don't think have that sense of it's all going to be dread and gloom if they don't win it this year. They feel the progress, the excitement of being competitive again, and I don't think they would necessarily blame Klopp or the team if it wasn't to happen against what is the best Premier League team ever, certainly in terms of results from last season, in Manchester City. The pressure is of course there, and I think he will be more annoyed than he lets on withdrawing the last couple of games, but at the same time you have to remember that Liverpool have come quite a long way from being a team that was completely lost, and didn't know where they were going, to a team that can compete once again for the biggest trophies. They should remember that, put it in context, and enjoy it as much as they can to be in the conversation. Honigstein chronicled how Klopp overcame the might of Munich is his excellent biography, Bring the Noise. And he was asked on the podcast if he believes Klopp cuts a similar figure this time around as the Reds boss attempts to prevent City from creating a dynasty. "Some of the lines I smile at because I've heard them so many times," said Honigstein. "The idea that it's all about concentrating on the next game, don't think ahead, that they only worry about themselves. This is not so much for the benefit of the media and the wider public, but really I think this is him talking to his team all the time, and you can picture him saying exactly the same thing in the dressing room. This idea that there's no point thinking where you might be in April and May, and how many points you will need to win, because the next game in the Premier League, even if you are as consistent as Liverpool have been, is always really, really tricky. It is a slight irony of fate that he finds himself for the second time up against the combined powers of Bayern and Pep Guardiola, who stand in his way. They ruined much of his life at Dortmund, either the both of them together or individually. And it might come to pass again, and he might think, what do I have to do to get away from Bayern and Pep? But at the same time this Liverpool team are much better equipped in terms of their financial underpinnings, and in terms the sort of trajectory of where the club and the team are going as a whole, than his Dortmund team, to stay in and be in the long running. I think with Dortmund it was always case of upsetting the odds, being the underdog, and the Empire was always going to strike back. With Liverpool they are also the underdogs, but the distance and the ability to make up that gap seems to be much more sustained in my view. In the space of 10 days the Reds have gone from passing up the opportunity to open up a 7-point lead at the summit to falling behind City on goal difference. Some Liverpool fans have said to me when Klopp waited to buy Virgil, Van Dijk and Alisson Becker, he was putting the final pieces of the jigsaw together, and it was all part of the master plan. But I'm not sure I buy that 100%, said Honigstein. Of course they tried to strengthen as best as possible, But I don't think they realized just how consistent they could be, and at the same time, that Manchester City would actually give them the opportunity to come in. So I think he'll be happy, but at the same time he might think to himself, with Man United coming back strongly, and one or two of the in the Premier League maybe improving next year, this might be now or never. He might never talk about it, he might not admit it to himself, but the opportunity, especially in the Premier League, is there, and I think it would be really good if they can seize it.